Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Build It with Tim. On today's episode, we're talking about Google Docs and Google Drive, okay, and how we can integrate these two with our Tadabase application. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a template document that we can copy, fill dynamically with application data, and then share that document with another person so that we can collaborate on that document together, okay? So let's get into it. We'll take a look at what it looks like when we're all done. And then, of course, we'll go through the entire process on how you can build this and add this to your Tadabase application. When we're done with this particular build, we're going to be able to submit a form and have all of this information go to a templated Google Doc. We're going to copy that doc. We're going to fill in all of the placeholders with record values, and then we're actually going to share that document with the intended user. So here we go. I'm going to start filling this out. Okay, application development is going to be our project name. We can select our client and our Google Doc template. Again, you can have more than one template if you want to fill different documents. Here, we're just going to fill out some dummy information and define our milestone. So we'll say release app to focus group. Our milestone details. Our second milestone will be our public beta, as well as the second milestone details. Now we're going to click save. And once this form has submitted and run all of the necessary functions, we can go into Google Docs and you'll see that we have a new document that's been created from a template with all of the information filled out successfully. Additionally, if I go over to my email, you're going to see that I have received an email saying that a new document has been shared with me with a custom message that you can define inside your application, and I'll open the document and then, of course, begin to collaborate. Okay, let's jump into the builder now and get started. All right, so the first thing that we need to do is we need to go into Google Docs and we're going to create our template document first. Okay, so the idea here is that we're going to have one source document, like one original template. And for every single time we need to create a new one, we're actually going to copy it. So we need to create one document first that we can start with. And for this instance, I'm going to use something from the template gallery. I'm just going to use the simple project proposal. Okay, so I'm going to add this um, to my documents, which of course also adds it to Google Drive, which we're going to get to in a little while. But here um, I need to take out the sections that I don't need, and I need to replace the existing text with template text, okay, or placeholder text. So the way that the pipe is going to work that we're going to use, the Google Docs pipe, is we are going to use the find and replace method. Okay, so we're going to look for text and then replace it with something else coming from our application. So for project name, I'm just going to do this to indicate that we want that to be project name. For the date, I'm going to turn this into current date. Overview, the headings I'm going to leave, but the actual paragraphs I'm going to do overview. Let's do overview data. The goals I'm not going to use right now. Specifications, we'll do specs data and milestones. So we're going to create some fields for these milestones. So this will be milestone 1 and milestone 1 data. And then this one will be milestone 2 and milestone 2 data. All right, back inside of Tadabase now, I'm going to start with a brand new app, and I'm going to build out all of the necessary functions that we need in order to implement this anywhere. So in this particular use case or example, what I'm going to do is this is going to be like a project management kind of thing. Okay, so we're going to have customers or clients that we want to share this document with, and then we can have a collaboration between our organization and a client organization on this particular document. So to start with this app, I'm just going to clean up a couple things. I don't need the sample data table. We'll delete this. And we'll start to add our new tables. So this will be projects. First, we need to have a table to store all of our project data. And this is going to be the data table that's actually going to pass information over to Google Docs. So let me just create all the tables necessary, and then we'll go through and do all the fields next. So the next one I'm going to do is I'm going to have an actual table called, well, we'll be specific, Google Doc templates. Okay, so this, if you want to have more than one, you're welcome to. And then the last thing we're going to use is customers. So, well, how about this? Clients. So we're going to have clients, we're going to have our projects, we're going to have our Google Doc templates. Okay, so each project is going to connect to a client. So we'll add a connection field, select the clients table. It's going to be a one-to-one connection. And we can do, yep, client name. Okay. Now, next we need to go through that Google Docs template, and we need to create all of those fields inside of our table. So if we can go back to Google Docs, we know we need project name, the current date, overview data, specs data, milestone one. Okay. So we're going to create those fields now. So we already have project name. We are going to create a date field for, let's see, we'll call this like proposal date, and that's what we'll pass. Proposal date, okay, and then we're going to do long text for the overview data, overview, and we don't need to name the fields what to match the placeholder values. That's purely for our reference. When we're building out this application, we're building out this function, we're always building in the mindset that this is displaying to users, right? So we want to be sure that we name our field something appropriate. Overview, we need specifications and the 2 milestones. So another long text for specifications, and we can do that here. And then we're going to have milestone 1. How about we call it first milestone? And then we'll do another long text for first milestone details. And then we're going to repeat this for the second milestone. And long text for second milestone details. Okay, so this is all of the fields now that we can pass. Okay, so we're going to map these in the pipe. So project name is going to go to project name, current date to current date, and so on and so forth. Okay, and again, each project is going to connect to a particular client. All right, so next we have our Google Docs template. So here we have the Google template name, or the doc template name. So for this, we can, the one we're using right now, we'll just call it like simple project proposal. And we need one more field, and that's to store the doc ID, okay? This is necessary to pass in the actual pipe, so we're gonna make sure that we store it here in our particular table. And then we're gonna go back to the projects table and add one last field, which is a connection to the Google Docs template that we're going to use. Okay, now, so there's a couple more things that we need to set up in order for this workflow to make sense and function correctly. And I'm going to do my best to try to explain it inside the data builder as I continue to create a couple more fields. But it's going to make a lot more sense once we get into the page builder. So bear with me for just a moment. All right, so the idea here is that we're going to onboard a new client. Okay, we are going to have that client is already going to be created for the sake of this demonstration, but we're going to onboard the new client by creating a new project or a new project proposal in this case. Okay, so by defining and creating this new project record, we are selecting the connected client, and we're also selecting the connected Google Doc template that we're going to be using. Okay, this is of course connected or in reference to this particular document that we just created. But when we onboard a new client and we want to send them a proposal or a copy of this document for them to collaborate and have all of this information filled out for them, then we need to copy the document first. Okay, so inside of this table, we're going to store our document template name and document ID. All right, let's go ahead and do that now. Okay, so I'm going to call this, this will just be simple project proposal. And in order to get the document ID, we're going to go back to Google Docs and we're going to take a look at the URL. Okay, so inside this URL structure is our ID. It's right after /D, and then there's another slash, and then we have a series of numbers and letters right before /edit. This is going to be our document ID. Okay, so we're going to take this, copy it, and go back here and paste it in here. And now we can use that for our reference. Now, when we are actually building this out inside the page builder, we're going to utilize a form component to pass all the necessary values. The reason that I chose a form component for this particular workflow is because inside of form components, when setting up a pipe to run on a record rule, we can use connected record values as pipe parameters. Okay, so in the context of what we're doing, what that means is when we select a Google Doc template, we're going to run a pipe to copy the document, and we need that document ID. Well, because we have this connection field, we can go retrieve that document ID from the Google Docs template table, grab that ID, pass it as a connected value, and then save the copied value from the pipe back into this project's table. Okay, I know that's it's I can envision it in my head just fine. If you're new to the platform, you might have a difficult time, like kind of seeing what I'm talking about, but I promise we're going to get there in just a moment. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create one more field here for now. There might be a couple others, but for right now, this is going to be the copied document ID. So let's just call that copied document. Let's just call it that copied document ID. Okay. All right, let's go with this now and see where we end up. We should be okay. But of course, we may have to come back here and modify a few things. So anyways, moving on to pipes. We need to install the two Google pipes that we're going to be using. So we're going to search for Google in our pipes menu here, and we're going to install Google Docs and Google Drive. Google Docs will let us manipulate the actual document itself. So we're going to authorize, install, select our Google account, and then we will follow the prompts until this is installed. And then we're going to go back to this screen and also install Google Drive. And the reason we want Google Drive as well is because of course, Google's kind of environment that we're working in. Even though we are creating a Google Doc, it lives in Google Drive. So if we want to copy the file or share the file, we need to do that through Google Drive. So same process here for selecting your Google account that you're going to use, following the prompts, and installing. Okay, now over to the page builder, we're going to add a new page and we'll call this client onboarding. And we'll add this to our menu, default layout, and this is going to be a form to add a new project. Okay, as I said, we are going to be making a connection between the client. We're also going to be making a connection to the Google Doc template. Okay, so we're going to just move this field up here so it makes a little bit more sense, and we do not need to show the copied document ID. Next, we're going to go into rules and add a new record rule, and we're going to use a couple record rules here. The first one is going to be to copy the document. So we're going to select Google Drive pipe and then the copy file function. And for our parameters, we're going to pass a connected value of the Google Docs, selected Google Doc template, and we're going to choose the doc ID from that table. And then for the file name, we can do, how about the project name? Okay, now in here, we're going to set the value of the copied document ID field to a pipe response of the file ID. All right, now we're going to add one more rule, and this is the next step of the process, which is going to be to actually fill out the newly created template. Okay, we've copied the template using the first rule, so let's actually rename this copy template. And the second rule is going to be fill the new template. Fill new template. Okay, so in this one, we're going to choose update this record. But this time, instead of Google Drive, we're going to select Google Docs. Okay, now all the way at the bottom of the Select Method dropdown, we have Find and Replace Multiple. Okay, and this will let us find and replace up to 10 items by default. Okay, and you can see we have a lot of different parameters here where we're finding an item, replacing an item, then finding an item, replacing an item, finding an item, replacing an item, so on and so forth. Okay, so for this particular test, all we're going to do right now is pass the document ID. Okay, so now the difference between this one and the record rule above it is now that we have the copied document ID available on the record level rather than the connected record level, we can choose record value and we're going to choose copied document ID, which is the result of this first record rule. Okay, and then just for a quick test, we're going to find this that this that we're going to find is the placeholder that we chose for project name, and replace with this one is going to be a record value of, let's do the project name. Okay, as far as setting record values goes, I do want to actually return some sort of response here just to make sure that things went smoothly. So in this case, I'm just going to update the copy document ID with a pipe response of well, we'll just do the document ID for now, but we could choose the required revision ID or any of the other changes that are here. So we'll do this and just give it a quick test. So we're going to preview our page. We have our form component now. We're just going to call this test project, and we're going to select our template. Okay, now just to cover those record rules one last time, what's happening is since we have a connection to the Google Doc template table and we've selected a template to connect with, we can, inside the form component and the record rules, we can go retrieve a connected value, in this case, the document ID of the template. We can pass it to Google Drive, which tell Google Drive to copy the file based on this ID. Google Drive is going to copy that file. It's going to give us a new ID in return, which we're going to save to the project record into the copied document ID field. Then in the second record rule, we are taking that newly created document ID and we are finding and replacing our placeholders with record values and then saving the new document. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to hit save, and then we're going to go check out Google Docs and make sure that that all worked as intended. Okay, so here we are. We have a new document here called test project, which is perfect. That was the name of our project. And you can see we have successfully replaced that first placeholder. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the rest of the parameters and I'm going to fill out what I'm looking for and what I'm replacing with, and then we'll look at this one more time. Okay, so I'm done filling out all my parameters, and I made just a couple changes here that I want to cover. The first change that I made is I added an additional action or set an additional record value in the first record rule using Google Drive where we're copying the selected template. And the change that I made was here I'm setting the value of the proposal date to the current date. All right, and then we're going to remove that input from the form so that it can be set automatically. Okay, and again, the reason we have to do this here is so that we can actually pass the current date value in the next record rule. So set it first, then pass it in the second rule. The second thing that I did is I removed the address parameters or the placeholders for the address field on the template document because I want to pass the email address, okay? Because the next part of this process is going to be sharing the created document with the intended client. Okay, so we need to go back into the data builder for just a moment and create some additional fields to help us out with that. So first of all, on the client table, we're going to add a client email address. Okay, and then let's just give this a value while we're here. I'll give this my own. How about that? So now that we have this, we can go back into our page builder and we're going to add that as an additional parameter here. So we'll do, let's see, I took out, let's see what's left. Find this number 4. We can, we're going to do client email because that's the placeholder that I used. and then we're going to replace with a connected value of the client email. Okay, and now we're good to go. All right, so we'll preview this again and we will go check out the results. Okay, and then we'll move on to the final piece of the puzzle, which is sharing the actual document. So let's call this my sample project. Here we will select our client and our template. Now for the overview and any of these long text fields, I'm just going to use some dummy text for now, and we'll call this first milestone, or no, we'll call this complete first revision, more dummy text, complete second revision, and then more dummy text, okay? So we can save this, and then once this is done, we can go check out the completed template. All right, here is our newly created document here, my sample project, and everything came through wonderfully, okay? So the next step is going to be going back and adding one more rule where we're going to share this document with the client. So we're going to add another record rule, update this record. We're going to choose the Google Drive pipe again, and this time we're going to choose share a file. And we can choose the restricted method here, and we will pass the file ID. So that's going to be the record value of the copied document ID. Okay, permissions and general access are actually set as default values for user or general access is user and permissions is writer. So we want the person that we're sending this to be able to edit the document, right? This is the idea here is for collaboration. So these have a default value. We can just leave those alone. So all we really need to fill out is the file ID, the email address that we're sending it to, which is the connected value of the client email, and the email message. So here we can define a custom email message that's going to go along with the notification that this person receives directly from Google or from Google Docs. So we'll say, looking forward to working with you. And if we want to save any particular value here from the pipe response, we can do that. For now, I will just I'll just save anything just because. Okay, so one last thing here we're going to do is just test this. Okay, and we can do this again. So we'll say my sample project 2, and overview again, we're just going to use some dummy text. First milestone is we'll say release application to focus group, and public beta is the second milestone. Okay, and now we can click save, and we are off. So this is going to make a new document again, and it's going to also send me an email, right? Because I was connected with that particular client. So let me pull up my email and show you what I got. All right, and here we go. Here is the email that was sent from me to me. Thank you, me. I shared this document with me. You can see it pulls in all that information that we passed along. The name of the file. It shows our email address, who we shared it with, and our message. Looking forward to working with you. Okay, now this person can then go open that document and begin collaborating on the document with the original owner. In this case, your organization. All right, so that's how we can use Google Docs and Google Drive to fill out a templated document and share it with an intended user or collaborator. All right, I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of Build It with Tim. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next week.